This is the Almost Timely newsletter for the week of October 23rd, 2022. What's on my mind this week? Artificial intelligence. Now, trigger warning, content warning, whatever you prefer the language. This newsletter isn't going to be all that positive, cheerful, or uplifting. So, if you're already stressed, give this newsletter a miss, right? Come back another time. Go read the Trust Insights newsletter on self-care we just published. Listen to Melinda's new song, or do something besides reads this. We're going to be talking about AI, economics, inevitably a little bit of politics, and social issues. Okay. I assume if you're still here, you're ready to get on the ride. Now that everyone else is gone, let's get started. This past week, a colleague asked me what I thought the future of AI was going to be in the next few years, where I thought things like content generation are going. Now, first, on the optimistic side, the same technologies that power things like the ability for an AI model to take a text prompt like, dog wearing a pink tutu riding on a skateboard and transforming that into art, these models are capable of so much more. Without getting into the guts and the mathematics of these kinds of models, the underlying technology is agnostic as to the kind of content it's working with. Thus, with enough data, it's equally possible for a prompt like this to eventually work. Make a short animated film about a penguin with poor eyesight. But again, that's not thinking big enough. Content type is irrelevant to the underlying technology. So this is also a realistic possibility. Here's a new virus. Here's this RNA. We haven't seen this before. Create a candidate vaccine, right? And a machine could engineer some candidates. Or here's the genetic code of an individual with a rare disease. Create 5 candidate drugs to treat it. Or create a genetically modified algae that consumes atmospheric CO2 at twice the rate of naturally occurring organism, and it dies quickly. Right? This is the upside of the latest generation of AI models. If we use them properly, we could engineer civilization-changing solutions for the better. What's required are massive amounts of data to train on, domain expertise wedded to AI engineering skills, and a focus on desirable outcomes, counterbalanced by a strong understanding of what could go wrong, right? The unintended consequences. That's the upside. And if we do it right, it's a pretty big upside. So, let's talk about that downside. You might want a beverage. The current generation of AI models and the immediate next generation was just around the corner, absent any regulation and government interference. It's going to cost millions of jobs. It's going to be like that. There's no gentle way to put it. Here's why. No AI software can do an entire person's job right now, because jobs are composed of a myriad of individual tasks, right? Write a blog post, put up some social tweets, have coffee, go to a meeting, fill out expense reports, lots of these tasks. But some of these tasks are substantial investments of time, and individual tasks, some of them can absolutely be done by machines. For example, writing a blog post can be done by a machine with reasonable quality today. Certainly, machines can create excellent first drafts, and even some, depending on the topic, can create some final drafts. Now, suppose you've got on your marketing team a team of 10 writers, right? A content creation team. Writing blog posts, let's say, occupies about 40% of the team's time in aggregate. If machines can create capable first drafts that only require minor editing, then suddenly your team has about 30 to 40% extra capacity. So what happens next? Well, one of two things. Either you find other tasks to fill that empty 40% capacity, or you can safely downsize that team by 40%. Instead of a team of 10, you can get the same amount of work done by a team of 6. But, not everyone writes blog posts, so most of us are safe, right? No. Anything that is repetitively creative, machines can create okay-ish to pretty good versions of. Machine-led art has already won art contests and actually forced some art competitions to specify that future entries must be either human-led or human-only submissions. Okay, anything repetitive. Making pay-per-click ads, making banner ads, making PowerPoint slides. These are repetitive tasks in the creative domain. All of them can be or will soon be done by machine. So why do I think this will lead to the loss of millions of jobs? First, because the kind of jobs that AI will impact negatively are becoming far more numerous. We used to think it was just going to be a small subset of jobs, but as these generative models have gotten better, we're starting to realize this technology is going to impact way more than just a few jobs. Chunks of data science, my profession, are becoming more and more automated. Right? Now, creative jobs are on the line in every part of creativity: writing, photos, art, film, music composition. We've already seen the impacts of automation in manufacturing jobs, right? That's what it's going to look like in creative jobs. And it is true. It is true that new jobs will be created, but the scale factor is not in humanity's favor. For example, I could probably paint one very mediocre painting in about a day. When I watch really good artists, like my friend Judy, it takes weeks to create a really good painting. Not a mediocre one, a really good painting. A tool like Stable Diffusion, I can write the necessary code and provide mechanistic prompts for it to generate 3,000 to 4,000 paintings overnight, right? And no, not all of them are going to be great. Some of them are going to be stinkers. But out of that batch of 3,000, I might find 10 or 15 that exactly match what I was looking for, right? Overnight. Now, yes, someone like me in the role of a prompt engineer is still needed to operate the machinery, but I've replaced the raw output of 3,000 mediocre human artists, people like me, with one machine instance that can achieve the same levels of productivity. Add to that, the level of competence for machine-generated content continues to rise. 5 years ago, machines doing text generation could only work in templates, kind of like boring Mad Libs. Today, they create coherent, readable text, as well as amazing artwork, passable music compositions. There's still a lot of work to be done in that sector, and other forms of creative output. But every year, the bar of competence rises higher and higher for what machines can do versus humans. And if you as the human are here at this skill level, and the machines are here, at a certain point, you're in trouble. Now, add to that the second major point. Our current economic systems in many different nations around the world, free market economies, tend to reward efficiency, and our main measure of success in free market economies is net profits, right? For good or ill, right or wrong, we measure company performance on things like net profits, certainly for publicly traded companies, right? If let's say you're an executive, you as a margin-minded executive or stakeholder, you hear about 40% inefficiencies in your organization. What are you going to do? Are you going to wait the 6 or 9 or 12 or 18 months for people in your organization to reskill and upskill and become more productive and more capable? Or are you just going to make cuts to improve your margins and right-size the business? If you report to Wall Street or other similar investor mechanisms, you're being asked to optimize for net profits before the next quarterly earnings call. You're not even going to wait 6 months. Right? You're going to just start cutting. Any publicly traded company is going to choose the latter, for sure. Most for-profit companies will choose the latter. It's the rational choice if your goal is to maximize net profits above all else, right? If that is your aim, you're always going to choose to get rid of people. Why? Because people are expensive. Human beings are expensive. Above and beyond just our pay, you have all these other aspects of people. Compensation in the form of benefits, healthcare, payroll taxes, you name it. If you're doing business in some European countries, for example, there's up to 100% premium on all the extra overhead that you pay in taxes for every employee you have. Now, obviously, this varies from region to region, but there are no no civilized places, where people are a more cost-effective option than machines for the same task, right? The only places where people are cheaper than machines are places where you have massive human rights violations, and nobody wants to work there. We certainly don't want our companies to emulate that. So, here's what we've seen over the last 2 centuries as a general rule. Once a task becomes the domain of machines at scale, it never goes back to being a human task at scale. Now, there are exceptions, right? You still have horse-drawn carriages with drivers, but those are like tourist things, right? Most people drive cars. You still do have, ice cutters and stuff. There are people who make artisanal blocks of ice, at $14 an ice cube. Most people have ice makers, right? No farm that produces at scale plows with a farmer and a mule anymore. Instead, you have like GPS-guided massive robotic equipment that does that, and the farmer is almost like a machine supervisor. It's the guy in the cabin, with the iPad and the controls, listening to his podcasts while the machine is going down rows and rows and rows of fields. And the hundreds of field workers that particular task might have employed in the past are no longer needed. No mass manufactured automobile is assembled by hand. Assembly lines today are more automated than ever. These industries are safer, they're more productive, they're more humane, but they employ far fewer people. And the same thing is going to happen to every task in the industry that AI touches. So who's going to be affected first? Any job that's made of largely repetitive tasks that AI can perform, for which there would be cost savings, substantial cost savings, especially if your level of skill is below that of a machine's, right? If a machine can generate 1,000 pay-per-click ads an hour and you can create 2, unless your 2 ads are brilliant, a machine's going to be doing that task very shortly, and you might not be. So what jobs are going to be affected the least? Jobs where the tasks are so complex and not repetitive that it's not worth automating them because the complexity levels are too high. For example, cleaning a hotel room has enough weird variability on a day-to-day basis, like, hey, who glued the furniture to the ceiling? That humans are better at it and will be for a while. Yes, you could teach a robot like, the Boston Dynamics Atlas robot to do the job. Those are $250,000 a piece just for the hardware, not to mention the time to train it and build machine learning models, and the fact that they only run 20 minutes at a time on their current batteries, right? They're not going to be taking the housekeeping jobs in a hotel anytime soon. Also, jobs where human-to-human relationships are primary, like massage therapy. These are jobs that customers probably don't want machines doing. Even if the machines were cheaper, you'd say, like, this is really weird. this robot just sort of like beating on me. So, what should you be doing to protect yourself? First, if you are in a profession where your tasks are highly repetitive and creative in nature, like art, design, writing, etc., you should constantly be upskilling, constantly improving your craft to the point where machines struggle to match your unique style. Second, your personal brand, your reputation, and how you market your reputation, how you market yourself, must be a priority. Being known for something, being good at something, being distinct in your field will offer an added layer of protection that the average worker is not going to have. Right? When people ask for you by name, you've got a strong personal brand. And this is not just marketing. This is any profession, right? We've all been to that restaurant or that coffee shop where there's that one person we'd prefer to deal with. They spell our name correctly on the cup, That person has built a personal brand that other people, us, value. So, who values you? And do they value you by name? If the answer is no, make that a priority soon. Make that a priority soon, right? You've got to do good work and then showcase to people your good work. Third, on a societal level, every free market society needs to figure out safety mechanisms like universal basic income really, really soon. Like climate change, it's got to be a priority now before it becomes an intractable problem later, before you have thousands or millions of newly unemployed people in the workforce while a few leaders, of business or tech companies get richer and richer. That is a recipe at the very best for social unrest and outright civil war at the worst. Millions of angry, unemployed people. Yeah, that doesn't go well for anybody. I would give us a decade at the most, to figure out something, universal basic income, some other similar safety mechanism to allow people to live on the basics so that they know they're not going to starve to death and be living on the streets. If we don't do that, AI will take a lot of these jobs, right? There will not be many people running the machines. There's one conductor per orchestra, and if we replace all of the musicians with machines, you only need one conductor. The other 50 people, you don't need them anymore. Those are terrible odds numbers. So we need something like universal basic income to prevent people from just outright, torches and pitchforks. That's a probable outcome. Look, AI is an incredibly powerful set of tools. Like all tools, it's agnostic and it's amoral, has no moral values whatsoever, good or bad. In the right hands, we will do great things with it. We will cure diseases. We will explore new frontiers. We will create majestic things. In the wrong hands, we will do incredible harm with it. We will disenfranchise people, disempower them. We will reinforce biases. Given the penchants and the propensities of the people that we idolize, we elevate people in public society like business oligarchs. And this is not just one nation. This is many nations. Given the people, the quality and caliber of the people we elect to office in many nations, right? Again, not just one nation, many nations have made some real questionable choices lately. The latter outcome of institutions and governments and corporations doing more harm with AI than good with AI is more probable. We need to get this stuff fixed and figured out fast. So, what do you think? Am I being too pessimistic? Am I missing the boat on something obvious? Hit reply if you're in the newsletter and tell me why. Leave a comment if you're watching this or listening to this and tell me why I'm wrong or what I missed. All right, so let's take a look at what's in the rest of the newsletter this week. We have, for the content this week, had a whole bunch of stuff. Probably the one I would recommend reading is the piece I did on conference swag. So conference swag, we were talking about, conference swag and tchotchkes and things you get and what it says about your company. That's a fun piece to read or watch if you watch the video version. Check that one out. Plus tons of other stuff this week. In advertisements, if you missed my session at the Marketing Profits B2B Forum on private social media communities, you can watch it. There's a link at the very top of the newsletter. You can click over and watch the replay for free. Jobs this week. We have Analytics Director at the Cleveland Cavaliers, Content Marketing Manager at NetSPI, Director of Brand Marketing at TRX, Art Developer at Kaiser Permanente, Senior Director of Research at Purpose, Senior Manager for Audience Development at the Smithsonian Institution, very cool, Senior Manager of Data Sciences at 3Q, and Web Analytics Engineer at Gother? It's a German company. Gother? I don't know. They've got a web analytics engineering position open. So go and check that out. In other news, TikTok e-commerce, why your business should be on TikTok, the best ads on TikTok and why they made us think. Marketers pivoting to face recession. By the way, I talked about this in the Trust Insights Slack group, Analytics for Marketers, which you can get at trustinsights.ai/analytics for marketers. The number one metric for predicting a recession, the 10-year to 3-month Treasury maturity rate, has reliably predicted every recession for the last 50 years, and it says another one's right around the corner. So buckle up. Get ready. Brand storytelling, topical authority in SEO, new Google ad labeling stuff. We've got audits of AI for bias, data analytics strategy for email marketing. And in the fun stuff this week, I was watching season 19 of Hot Ones. Their new sauces are out. A really interesting piece that we are finally beginning to understand exactly what COVID does in the body. And it's basically a molecular Miley Cyrus on her wrecking ball, breaking down your circulatory system, like your blood vessels and things. That's why it causes so much damage and why it's so problematic. So worth a read if you're interested in that. Of course, reminder to donate to the Ukraine Humanitarian Fund at United 24, which is u24.gov.ua, to support Ukraine as it continues its fight to free itself from Russian occupation. Upcoming events: HeapCon in November in Belgrade and SMPS in Las Vegas. So lots and lots of things happening. Exciting stuff this week. Thanks for tuning in. I hope it wasn't too much of a downer, but this is a question that I've been getting a lot. Where's the stuff going? And where it's going in the wrong hands is not pretty. So we need to be making as sure as possible that as many of the right hands as possible are working with AI and trying to mitigate the harm that it does. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe. I'll talk to you soon. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.